and welcome to the Unsure to Unstoppable podcast. My name is James Dunn, and I was adopted. I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father, and I was arrested for attempted armed robbery when I was 17 years old. Why do I share that with you in this podcast introduction? Well, because while you may not have gone through any one of those specific set of circumstances yourself, you've had your own version of them, whether it's a loss of a job, a divorce, you were picked on as a kid. Something in your life has created this little voice in the back of your head that's made you doubt yourself, question yourself and what you're truly capable of. As a podcast host and as a mindset coach, what I do is I help you tell that little voice in the back of your head to shut the fuck up, get out of your own way, and move from unsure to unstoppable. And how I plan to do that is each week I'm going to bring you stories of inspiration, motivation, my own challenges, my own struggles, as well as those of others who've gone through challenging times, rough times, things that most people maybe just didn't think they could ever get through, but have not only gone through them, but come out thriving on the other side of them. And through the sharing of those stories, I hope to help you see that you're not alone in this journey called life. Whatever you've gone through, whatever challenges you're having right now, it doesn't matter. You are a fucking badass and you deserve an amazing, incredible life, and we're going to help you get there. So with that, enjoy today's show. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Unsure to Unstoppable podcast. I'm James Dunn. I am your host. And today I want to do something a little different. Actually, a couple of things are going to be a little different. First and foremost, as I've shared with you on my launching of this podcast, I'm not perfect, never going to be perfect, but always going to strive to be the best that I can possibly be and learn from my past failures, my past mistakes, or just potentially, how I could do things better. And so the thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to use notes to kind of guide me through this episode. And if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, I hope that you wouldn't even notice that that was the case, that I was using some notes, to kind of look off of. But if you're watching the video version of the podcast, if you join me here on YouTube, and see me glancing off to the side of the camera from time to time, what's going on is I'm using notes and just kind of give you an idea of how these episodes normally are recorded. What I will do is I will come up with an idea. I have this basic concept of what I want the episode to be about. And I may have a couple of points in my head that I really want to kind of hit on, but I don't generally write anything down beforehand. I don't even have little Post-it notes or anything. I just have the idea of this is what I want to talk about today. And I just go, I let it run. I just wait and see what naturally comes out, what the universe, God, spirit, whoever, what's ever inside of me wants to call out during that episode of the podcast. That's what comes out during that recording. That's all great and well because I'm very big on authenticity and just want to share what naturally comes. But where that can become a challenge and where I think I might miss the mark from time to time with that is if I'm sharing with you information about a very specific topic, I know there are certain points that would be really, really good to hit. And if I'm just waiting and seeing what comes naturally, I'm not always going to hit those. So that's why I want to try this idea of using some notes, some fairly robust notes as I go through this next episode and try the next few and see how it goes. So definitely give me your feedback. See if you just notice that I'm reading something or if it feels a little forced, and we'll see if that naturally unravels itself and clears itself out as I go through a few of these episodes and learn how to better set up my notes. Or if it's something that, really is restricting the flow of what's coming through. And if you don't feel like you're getting value out of it, let me know. I'm always open to feedback and I got to do what I naturally feel like doing works best for me. But obviously I'm here to help you, to guide you, to challenge you and help you to become the best that you can possibly be. And if I'm not getting the messages across in a really digestible and enjoyable way, then I need to make some changes. So with all that being said, I'll get ready to dive into today's episode. And the other thing that's a little funky about this one is I'm going to talk about a TV show. Now, you may not be interested in ever joining the special forces, and you may not even like watching TV. I try not to watch that much of it, but every so often, something will pique my curiosity. I will see something that just like, I really want to see what's going on here with this. And this is definitely one that piqued my curiosity. There's a TV show that came out last year or last season. I don't know when the season's run, but it's the second season of it now. And it's called Special Forces World's Toughest Test. And what they do is they take celebrities and they bring them into this boot camp kind of a thing. It's a 8 to 10 day boot camp that they have to go through. And it's like a mini version of special forces training. Now, again, you may not be interested in special forces. You may not be interested in the Army, any of that stuff. But what I found very fascinating about this TV show and what drew me into it was knowing the military, special forces specifically, any of those things are very, very, very heavily into mindset. It's about overcoming the challenges that you're faced physically, mentally, emotionally. And in their turn, in their specific situations, it's life or death situations that they have to deal with. And so I was really curious what they were going to be putting these people through and how it was going to challenge them and how they, went about teaching them how to manage their emotions, how to push themselves through physical challenges that they never thought they could do, and just have this drive to continue even when they felt like I just can't fucking do anymore. And I've not been disappointed. It's not the most glamorous show, even though you got celebrities on it. It's not the most glamorous show. The hosts, I guess you would call them, the four main people who are, kind of teaching these people, they're not super exciting. And even the voiceover guy is not super exciting, but there's a lot of great value that comes out of it. And I guess maybe that's almost what you would expect out of a special forces show. You wouldn't expect a lot of glitz and glamour and over the top things like that. But I want to share with you some valuable lessons that we can all learn, whether you have interest in the military or just growing in your business, in your life, in your career, and becoming the best person you can be. There's very valuable lessons we can all take from this TV show. So I want to share with you some of those today. Now, the very first lesson that you can learn from this TV show is resilience. As I mentioned, as these celebrities are going through this show and this boot camp and these challenges, they are tested physically, mentally, emotionally. They are pushed to their absolute limits. And one of the things that's really been interesting for me is seeing that the instructors, they aren't so much worried about if you pass or fail tests. Obviously, they want to, if this were a real life situation, if this were true BUDS training, for the Navy SEALs, or if this were true Army Ranger training or any of these special force units, passing or failing the tests would be a huge, 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 huge piece of this. And you would be kicked out if you failed too many of them. That's not necessarily the case for this TV show. What the teachers are looking for in this show is your resilience. Are you willing to get back up when you fall down? And this is so important to us in our lives as entrepreneurs, as people who are trying to grow and become the best that we can possibly be, because there are going to be so many times when you're going to be pushed to your limits. You're going to be challenged and you're going to get knocked down over and over and over again. We talk about this all the time on the show and in my content. Failure is part of the process. You're never going to avoid it. If you are avoiding failure, you are avoiding the truest potential of yourself, because until you push yourself until you get to a point of failure, you'll never know what you were truly capable of. And when you fall down over and over and over again, it might make you want to give up. And you have to build this muscle. You have to build this drive inside of yourself that says, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to keep on pushing because this is important to me. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in one of the later lessons, but understanding that you cannot give up. I must keep going no matter how bad this feels right now. I've got to put that aside and keep going. Now, the second lesson that I find, really fascinating here in this show, and which one is deep, in my heart, is facing your fears. In this show, people literally have to, at one point, they're lit on fire. Other times they have to go get jumping out of helicopters. They have to dive into pitch black waters in the dead of night. They have to go in there when it's freezing cold. They have to do all these things. Even these people who don't swim very well, even these people who are afraid of the dark. At one point, there's some of them are out there getting chased through the desert. It's all of these very fearful, scary things that they're having to do. And yet they push themselves through it. They do it. At least most of them do. And as an entrepreneur, as a person trying to grow yourself, as a person who's trying to become the best at what you are and who you can be, you're going to have fears that are going to come up all the time. A big fear I used to have was talking on camera, doing Instagram lives, doing Facebook lives, speaking in front of an audience, speaking in front of a group, just putting myself out there, being vulnerable, sharing stories about my past, my history, some of the things that I had gone through, because I was afraid people would judge me. I was afraid people would talk like, oh my God, James did this, James did that, or he was such a fucking idiot. He did these dumbass things, or look at who the fuck does he think he is? He's getting here on Instagram Live. Why does he think he's a mindset coach? What makes him special? All of these things bring up these fears, these insecurities, these doubts about who we are and what we're capable of. And if you know me at all, matter of fact, if you go back to the intro of this fucking podcast, I share, we talk about that little voice in the back of our head, making us question ourselves and telling that motherfucker, shut the fuck up. Okay. We have to be able to face our fears and push ourselves through them. Now, obviously, if your fear is to touch a live electrical socket with a piece of metal, that's not a fear that you need to get over. That is a fear that is very rational. That is a fear that will literally save your life, because you don't want to do that type of a thing. But if it's something like jumping out of an airplane, is it scary as fuck? Hell yeah. But is it awesome as fuck as well? Hell yeah. I've done it 5 times. I know. So I've stepped on that ledge literally and jumped off 5 times. And so many of these things that you have fears around, that you're scared about, that you are afraid are not going to go well, with a little bit of planning, with a little bit of preparation, almost all of them are going to succeed on some level. Now, maybe if you do an Instagram live, you don't get 1,000 viewers like maybe you would want it, or it doesn't, you don't post your first Instagram reel and get 1 million views on it and 1,000 followers and whatever, but you're learning from that. So face your fears, whatever they happen to be. Don't let them hold you back, because again, if you're going to be the best that you can possibly be in who you want to be, you've got to lean into that fear. I wish I had worn my shirt for my YouTube watchers again. Fuck fear, do it anyway. That is one of my major mottos. Fuck fear, do it anyway. All right. Cool. Lesson number 3, know your why. Know your why. Now, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about the resilience. In this show, what I've seen over and over and over again is the celebrities. This is probably my biggest complaint about the show, is it being celebrities. They don't have a big enough why. They're there, yeah, because they want to push themselves. Yeah, they want to challenge themselves. But I have a belief that the vast majority of them are there because it's exposure. It gets their name out in front of people. They're on TV again, because many of these are former TV, reality show stars or actors who maybe haven't done much lately, or they're sports stars whose time is done and they want to get some visibility again. So they go on these shows, but they don't have a strong enough why. And for you, what's really important is to understand your why. And there's an old saying that says your why will make you cry. And what that means is, I want you to think about this from the standpoint of, if you don't do this, will you be able to keep a roof over your head? If you don't do this thing, will your children suffer? Will they not live the life that they deserve to live because you didn't step the fuck up and become the best version of yourself? Will you not be able to support your parents in their old age when maybe they're struggling with dementia, maybe they're struggling with their health issues? Will you not be able to financially help them, support them when now they need your help instead of them helping you? It's your turn and you're not going to be able to help them because you didn't do the things that you needed to be doing to build your business, to build your life, to become the best that you can be. and become the truest version of yourself. Understand why you're trying to do all these things, because we talk about that resilience, and if you don't have that really, really strong why, when you run into a brick wall, when you run into a challenge or something that's going to slow you down, that's when you're going to give up. And I've seen it over and over and over again in this TV show, where people will just quit because they don't have any reason to be there other than just to see how tough they are. And they're like, well, I'm just going to peace out. Like, one of my favorite contestants, literally, I think it was on day 2, maybe day 3, just got up in that morning and they all got in a little line, and he just, the instructor said, hey, anybody got anything that you tell me? And the guy just out of the blue popped up, was like, yep, I do. He said, I quit, I'm out. I mean, it wasn't like he was being pushed that day. He'd been there for a day. He'd had to deal with some cold shit. He'd had to deal with a couple other things. And he's like, oh, peace out, I'm gone. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. This is ridiculous. If he had a strong enough why, if he was truly there to find out what he was capable of, there's no fucking way that guy would have quit. Dang, I'm slowly giving away pieces and pieces of this show, but there's no way this person would have quit if they had a strong enough why, if they truly felt like, I am 1000% here at this show to do this, to find out what I'm capable of. He would not have quit. And you won't quit on yourself if you know what your why is, and it's a strong enough why that it literally almost makes you cry when you think about the potential of not achieving what you're setting out to achieve. So really figure out what that is. The 4th lesson is master the voice in your head. So this is something I saw over and over and see over and over in the show, is mastering the voice in your head. So many of these contestants will talk themselves out of doing something before they even get to it. They will start making excuses. And it's funny because you can almost see who's going to quit before they quit. And obviously, with the editing of the show, they intentionally kind of set that up because, that's kind of the lead in to what's going on. And maybe the other contestants are doing as well, but you can really watch this breadcrumb trail almost of this person going from the point when I got here to the point that I quit, because they're slowly talking themselves. And when they're verbalizing it, this makes it 10 times worse, because they're saying, oh, well, my back hurts. And, oh, well, I feel like this. Some of them were talking about, not being great parents because they left their kids. Dude, you're gone for 10 fucking days. Okay. 10 days out of your child's life is nothing compared to the example that you're going to set for them when you go off and you show them what you are capable of, which in turn shows them what they are capable of. So using these excuses, they start finding reasons, they start justifying, the reasons for quitting long before they ever quit. It was not because they couldn't do it. It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. If I stay here, this is not good, blah, blah, fucking blah. And so frustrating, so disheartening. It makes me sad to see these people do this, because not even, being there, but I can see their potential. I can see your potential. And I don't want you to start dropping, these ideas in your head and letting that little voice get control of you. We talked about it just a little bit before. Tell that little voice to shut the fuck up. Okay. It's important to listen to your heart, listen to your soul, and understand what it's saying. And if it's truly, truly telling you this is not the right path for you, that's one thing. But just to start letting it make excuses, giving you reasons to stop, that's not good enough. That's not enough. And I'll give you a quick example. This morning, I was out for a run. I've got a half marathon coming up next weekend. Today was literally going to be my last run before next weekend's run. I was going to do a short 6-mile run just to kind of keep my legs, loosened up. And I got maybe half mile into my run, and my toe started hurting. And the voice in my head's like, quit, stop right now. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to do anything to jeopardize next week's run. And that's a very valid thought. That's a very valid thing to think, like, hey, you've got our big run next week. Slow down, stop. You don't want to do anything. But I also knew if I just took some time, and instead of automatically turning around, automatically, stopping the run, if I just took some time, walked, maybe, flexed my feet a little bit, put a little pressure on it from side to side, and just worked it a little bit, see what would happen. See what would happen if I just kept going, maybe even jogged on a little bit. And lo and behold, sure enough, within maybe of a quarter of a mile, 5 minutes of just kind of playing around, if even that long, I was able to get past the pain in my foot. It, for the most part, went away. And I was able to complete my 6 mile run where I would have given up maybe half a mile in, which would have led me to a whopping 1 mile run today, if that. So learn to distinguish when the voice in your head is just trying to cut you short and keep you from, attaining what's truly possible for you, and what is truly, truly, truly telling you this is not the right path for me, because that's always possible as well. All right, so those were the 4 lessons that I had with my notes that I was going to share with you today. But I also, watching a new episode yesterday of the show, came up with one more that was really, really important. And it's learning to master your emotions. So that kind of plays even a little bit into, my run this morning, but more so what I've seen in the TV show. Let me start there. Was watching this TV show, they have situations designed literally to push these people to their limits in terms of rage, in terms of fear, in terms of all these emotions that can truly, why do I keep saying truly so much today? But all these emotions that can run away with your focus and your attention. And if you aren't a master of your emotions, it's going to completely distract you from what you're trying to achieve. So as you're going through your business and trying to grow it, you're going to have failures. You're going to have things that don't go the way that you want it to go. As you're trying to improve your life, you're going to have situations come up that don't work out the way that you hope they would, relationships that push your buttons. You're going to have whatever come up that's going to, again, send you into this feeling, this emotion that isn't necessarily important. I don't want to say it's not important, but in the moment that you're in, it's not the time to deal with it. Okay. And man, here's another crazy example. I love how the world just kind of brings things to you at the perfect time. So I just saw a video this morning that was talking about, it was Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was talking to one of the players. He was asking him why he got in a fight when the clock was running. They were in, I guess, like a 2-minute drill kind of a thing. They had a very short period of time. They couldn't fuck around. They had to get out there and get these plays done. But one of his players got into a fight. And what that was doing was that was draining time off the clock while this guy was out there fucking around. And Tomlin's like, listen, man, sometimes you got to put your ego aside. Sometimes you got to put that emotion aside and focus on the bigger picture. Focus on the goal, the mission. Take yourself outside of it in that moment to remember, why am I here today? What is most important to me today? And this goes back to your why. This goes back to knowing what you're doing this for and what your aim is, what you're trying to achieve. Because when you can focus on those, it allows you to step outside of that emotion that's there in that moment and focus on what you need to do right then, right there. Now, when the play's over and everything's done in that football case, maybe then the next play you go out there and you punch the guy in the face, or you do whatever you need to do at that moment. But take care of what needs to happen in the moment, and then shift to later to dealing with that emotion, and not too far down the road. This is one where I think it gets lost a lot, is you don't want to become a robot. You don't want to shut off your emotions completely. We just have to learn how to compartmentalize them, maybe put them on pause for a little bit while I focus on the task at hand, and then deal with something, later. It's like a situation where, if you're a life and death situation, you can't let your fear overtake you in the moment. You have to focus on, what can I do to resolve this issue right here, right now? I'll deal with crying about it. I'll deal with freaking out about it later. But in this fucking moment, I'm taking care of what needs to be taken care of. All right, so that was a bonus lesson. So you actually get 5 in there. And what I want to do in today's episode as well is I want to give you 4 chances to take action. Because one of the big things that will help you move so much faster, matter of fact, you won't get anywhere if you're not taking action. So I want to put out 4 potential action steps for you based on the 4 lessons that I shared with you today. Now, there's only 4 lessons because that's what my notes were when I put this together. But the 4 action steps I want to give you, and you don't have to do all 4 of them. You can do all 4 of them, but Pick one of these four is what I would much rather you start with today. Just pick one of these four, and I'm going to give you one for each of the four different lessons I share with you today. So in terms of resilience, developing that resilience, what's something that you've given up on that if you started back up again would have a massive impact on your life? Think about it. There's something in your life that you ran into a challenge on, that you stumbled with, that it wasn't going the way that you hoped it would, and you gave up on it. Is there something that if you went back and looked at it, you could try it again, that you gave up sooner than you really wanted to or sooner than you could have? What is that major step, or what is that step that you could go back that would have a major impact on your life? Go back, start it up again. Try it. Okay. All right. The second potential action step I want to give you, facing your fears. What is one fear that if you could face it right now, even in the tiniest way, that you could take action towards? So is it, doing a Facebook, Instagram live? Is it having a conversation with somebody that's hard, that's challenging? Maybe you're in a relationship with this person. Maybe you want to have a relationship with this person. Last night I took my daughter to Six Flags, her and her friends, and it was funny because I could see one of my daughter's friends was standing here, and there was like this boy, this cute boy right next to her, and they were both in line, and you could see them just making eye contact with each other. And there was like a little bit of a vibe, a little bit of energy. And it was so funny because I'm standing opposite them, and I'm like wanting to reach over to this kid and say, ask her, say hi to her, do something, man. You're going to fucking regret it if you don't fucking face this fear that you've got. Cause I could see it in his eyes that he wanted to talk to her, but he was scared. And, she was giving him the signals. In my mind, she wasn't really talking to him, but I mean, she would make a comment every so often, just enough to like open the door. But then she would make the eye contact. But this kid, he was just, holding back. But thank God, this motherfucker, he got her Snapchat, which is what the kids do these days. Oh my gosh. Just like, hey, can I get your Snap? And so he got her contact info, and now they can connect, do whatever, maybe have a relationship down the road. But he faced his fear. So what is a fear that you can face today? Face that fear. All right. The third potential action step, define your why. This one is huge. This one's a big one. So schedule 15 minutes or longer if you, really want to dive deep into this, but at least schedule yourself 15 minutes sometime over the next week of uninterrupted time and figure out what your why is. And I want you to really, really dig deep on this. Your why might be like, I want to leave my job. Well, okay. Well, why do you want to leave your job? Because I want to spend more time with my kids. Well, why do you want to spend more time with your kids? Well, because I didn't get to spend much time with my father, and I know how much that hurt me, not getting to spend time with my father. So I wanted to have that for my kids. So really start digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And they say there's like 7 layers deep before you truly hit the truth of something. Maybe you go that far, maybe you don't, but really, don't just take the automatic first thought. Dig deep into this, because again, like I said before, your why will make you cry. All right. Last action step that you can possibly take is challenging your self-doubt. What is a story that you've been telling yourself that if you believe the opposite, that it would be dramatically improving your life to have this new story running through your mind all the time? So you've got stories that you've built. There's something in your mind right now that you're telling yourself that is true, that's not. You just believe it is based on your experience, based on your past, and based on what you've been fed by society, by your family, by your friends, whoever. Figure out what one of those stories is and rewrite it. You might need to take some time. I mean, this would be another one where you sit down for 10, 15 minutes at least, if not longer, but sit down and figure out what this story is and change it and start acting, start believing, start living your life like this new story is true, because that's the only time it's ever going to actually become true, is if you start believing it and taking action towards it. All right. What I want you to do is, whatever of the 4 steps that you chose to take, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I want to hear what it is that you have taken, so maybe I can hold you accountable. If you've gone through the exercise and you want to share with me what the new story is that you've told yourself, awesome. If you want to tell me what your why is, awesome. If you want to tell me what the fear is that you faced, awesome. Or if it's just something that you're going to face, whatever, but shoot me a DM. I want to hear what you're moving forward with and how you're learning and how you're growing here. So, all right. With that, I want to say thank you for joining me on the episode today, and hope you got some enjoyment, some value out of this new style, this new format. I think it really worked out pretty well. It definitely went a lot longer than I normally do. So let me know if you enjoyed this a little bit longer episode, because again, I'm going to keep tweaking it, hopefully getting better and better each week with it. And with that, get out there. Have an amazing fucking day, and I'll see you next time. If you found value in this episode, please share it with your friends. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and anywhere else that you happen to hear it. We are just trying to celebrate life, make it better for everyone, and sharing these messages with them just helps them believe in themselves and what can be better than that.